Art Journal Pages, AFTCM January Journal Page Lottery Entry, and a keeper page for me. I am a member of the Art for the Creative Mind, AFTCM Yahoo Group. Every year they hold a lottery for different projects, submissions by the members. This year the theme of the lottery is journal pages, and the theme of the page is my story. The first part of this video is the show and tell of my journal page submission to the journal page lottery and a page I made for myself just in case I do not win the lottery. The second part of this video is a process segment where I discuss how I made the pages in a fast-forward segment. Lottery? Well, I think all the participants are winners. Hi, I have finished 2 journal pages, and these pages are for an art group that I'm in on Yahoo Groups called Art for the Creative Mind. They're running a January lottery, and for this year, the January lottery happens to be journal pages. Everybody creates a journal page. This is the page that I created to contribute, and they upload a photo of it in the album on Yahoo Groups, and then on the 1st of February, the moderator of the host of the swap will do a random draw, and the winner gets all the journal pages. So this is my contribution. The size is 8.5 by 5.5. It's kind of shiny. You'll see some shine on the page because I've glazed it. I like to glaze my pages because I think it just adds an extra layer of protection. This is the front of the page, and this is the back. This is the show and tell portion of the video. I'm going to talk about these pages for a little bit, and then I'll have an intermission where I say if you do not want to see the process portion of this video, you can either continue on or stop the video at that point. So, my story, I went through my stash. Everything that I put on this page is from my stash. I found this rub-on. It says, a work in progress. And I think that has described my personal story all my life. Up here I have a little plastic envelope. One of those little envelopes that has a puzzle piece in it. And I actually got this little puzzle piece at a group meeting that I was at, and it came in a goodie bag, and it says, because you are an important piece of our puzzle. And I thought, well, that's an appropriate thing to put on a page describing my story, because sometimes my life has been a puzzle, or sometimes I'm just looking to piece all the parts of my puzzle together. Underneath is a little tag that I made out of an embellishment package, a little cardboard, chipboard piece that came into it. But I like the word inspiration, and I feel like inspiration is a part of my story. I love to create. I love to get inspired by different things. And on that, I kind of wrote my own quote. It just came to my mind as I was creating this tag. It says, ideas come easy to an open mind. The background, if you watch my process video, the background is done with copper penny, and I have some aged patina in there. I also have some lettering on here that's done with vinyl spackling. And on the side here I have a Tim Holtz tissue paper and the word curiosity. It shows up right there. And then this little My Story label was actually taken off of a Tim Holtz brochure. I have a little chipboard flower on here with some ribbon on it. And then I have some of these paper clips that I actually found at Goodwill. I got kind of a bargain on those. So that's a part of my story too, is thrifting and finding bargains. So that's the front. It has very much of a coppery background, and I've edged it with, first I used gelatos. First time I've used gelatos in my art journaling. And then I've edged it on the side with a biggie black Faber-Castell pen. You turn it over, and here's the back. Now the back is an actual cross-stitch piece that I found at the thrift store. I found two of them. I used one of them on, actually, I used it on another piece that was a self-portrait page. So both of these cross-stitch flower pieces that I found at the thrift store went to describe a part of my life, and that just happened. I didn't plan it that way, so I guess flowers and needlework are a part of my story. Here again is that inspiration little label up here that I created from, well, it's elements of inspiration. It was from a embellishment package that I had gotten. And here is my documenting tag here, and another one of those paper clips. I went through my stash. I'm using everything from here is from my stash. These were actually some paper punch from a Martha Stewart paper punch that I was using as stenciling, and they kind of broke off, and you know, I just threw them in my box 19, but they just add a visual element to this page that kind of reminds me of a little garden with this flower coming through here. I also have glazed this cross-stitch piece. I used gelatos on the background here. You can see I kind of smeared them on there, and then I edged it again with my black Faber-Castell. Down here, when I created this page, this was actually a part of a larger page, like a 9 by 12, I believe it was, journal page that I tore out, and I cut it in half. But I left these little, from my tears, can you see them? There you can see them really well. I thought those were just really unique on this page. I might do that more. It just adds kind of a visual element to the bottom of the page. The person who receives this, whoever wins the lottery, they can either leave these on or they can snip them off if they don't like them. I hope they leave them on. But so this is the one that I'm going to submit to the lottery. I had a lot of fun doing this. And then this is one that I'm, just in case I don't win the lottery, I want something of my own to put in my own journal. So I made my own companion piece. While I was creating this one, I created one for myself. And on this one, here again, I have the vinyl lettering, and I chose a poem from E.E. Cummings that I've liked ever since I first read it in high school. It says, "Who are you, little eye, peering from some high window at the gold of the November sunset, and feeling that if day has to become night, this is a beautiful way." And that to me says, you know, if we have to live our whole lives and grow old and die, I can't think of a better way to do it. So, and then I had some more rub-ons left over from this package. There was a flourish here and the phrase, "so blessed." And then there's another phrase right in there that says, "My job is to take care of the possible and trust God with the impossible." And that's from Ruth Graham Bell. So I thought that was really nice to put on my page. And then over here, I have my little dress form that I affectionately call Mrs. Wilkins. Mrs. Wilkins was my high school art teacher. She was a big influence on my life at that time. And I found some very pretty lace in my stash, and I kind of go for this type of thing in my art. Not all the time, I just need a touch of it. The coral color, I like how the coral contrasts with the black and the gold. I have a little label up here, again from the Tim Holtz, that says my story, and then you can't see it, but right under here it says enjoy the journey. And here's the gold November sunset. So on the back, I collaged down a piece of notebook paper that I had been using to save off my scratch paint when I was working on my projects. I have a tissue paper that I stamped some butterflies. I believe this comes from a Tim Holtz stamp, and the dress form also comes from a Tim Holtz stamp. Here I have some Seven Gypsies gaffer tape that I wish I could find more of, but unfortunately I can't. I don't see it retail anymore. I wish they'd start making it again. They went to that washi tape, and that washi tape is not strong. This gaffer tape is strong stuff. It's like a it's a cloth, almost like a cloth duct tape. I miss it. I wish they'd make it again. But anyway, here's the back. I'll be keeping this one for myself. So this is just a little show and tell of the two pieces that I'm going to submit for our lottery. Now at this point, I'm going to go into a process video. If you want to stick with me and watch that, that would be fine. But if you don't have time for it, now would be a good time to click off the video. I've enjoyed doing this, and best wishes to the winner. I think that they're going to get some really nice stories. I am going to work on a journal page today. I hope to get this all done today. This is for a swap. I'm in the Art for Creative Mind group on Yahoo Groups, and we have what they call a January lottery, and they do it every year. Well, this year the theme is a journal page, and the theme of the journal page is my story. The journal page should measure 5.5 by 8.5. I tore a page out of my mixed media, Strathmore mixed media journal. I'm going to have to cut this down, but before I do, I'm going to do the background on it. So I kind of want to go through some supplies that I've chosen. I didn't find everything that I wanted out of my stash, but that's okay. The thing that I didn't find must not go on this page. So I picked some gelatos, Faber-Castell gelatos. I've never really worked with these. I have the black and white that I thought I would try working with them on this page, experimenting with them. In here, this is my little book that I'm altering. I just really have only done 2 pages in it, but I have some more pages that I want to do in it. But what I have here is I grabbed it and I wrote the quote that I'm going to use. The quote is one that I've always enjoyed ever since high school. And it's not a quote, it's a little poem. And it's by E.E. Cummings. It says, "Who are you, little I, 5 or 6 years old, peering from some high window at the gold of November sunset and feeling that if day has to become night, this is a beautiful way." And I think that fits very well into my story. I may just tear this page out because I wrote it on there really quick so that I could have it as a reference, or I may put it on that page another way. But I'm going to use that poem on the page. Here is a brochure from Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, and I like the gold November sunset on there, so I thought I would pull this part from this brochure. Then I went in my stash and I pulled some music because I like music. This is an old music book. You can see it's falling apart. I have some textural elements. This is from an orange bag. This is not this is one of those plastic ones, but I still like the texture of it. So I may or may not work that into it. This is some gold. I like this paper. It looks like it was a wrapping paper or a handmade paper. It came in a goodie bag from someplace. This is a Tim Holtz brochure, and the only reason I pulled this is because it has my story, and I thought I might just use that little part and maybe, you know, paint out or blur out his story and put my own or write a quote. Maybe the quote will go in there. This is just a piece of cardboard. I think I just had it in there for the strength of the stack. Here's a piece of 8x8 scrapbook paper. It was quite popular a few years ago. I have a little piece that, and this is actually another piece that I'm going to use on another project. Here's some little text elements from cutouts from one of the altered books that I did early in 2013. I thought I'd start using those, probably collage them on there. Here's the back of a chip bag, but I like the silvery on it. Here's just a punch out of letters. I had used this with modeling paste to do some of the letters on there. I thought I might spray through there. Some corrugated light bulb paper. It's not really cardboard, it's more of a paper, corrugated paper. I thought this was pretty. This is just a cross-stitch flower. I did not do this, but I thought it might be nice to put either on the front of the page or maybe even on the back. Here's a rub-on that I'd gotten 25% off bin, a work in progress. That's certainly my story. Here's a receive a free quote today from Travelers Insurance, but I like it that it's got my name stamped on there, and I thought I'd paint this out and just leave my name, but it's got a number there too, and maybe I'll put a tape or something over that number. This was an element from a little metal embellishment for Nun tag. I used all the embellishments, but I like the word inspiration. And here's a little puzzle piece that I got when I went to a group meeting a couple years ago, but on it says, because you're an important piece of our puzzle. And they had just put that in a little goodie bag. But I thought somehow I would attach that, or I might alter that puzzle piece. It fits in with who are you. Here's another little inspiration tag. Here's some cheapy brads that I got at one of the big box stores. I don't know which one, but the little pearls came off of them, and it just left the flat back. Well, I thought that would be neat if I could get some little, maybe some letters. Maybe I could put Mary on there, or I don't know, anything in there decorative. Collage some papers on there. So I thought I would play with those. And then last of all, I have some tissue paper towels that I had used in another project, and you can see but I thought I might use that to collage on there too. So yes and no, I may or may not. I certainly have enough to work with. Piece of ribbon, a little piece of, why am I keeping this cellophane? Actually, because this came from an antique handkerchief box, I believe, and it's yellowing. And it's just cellophane, and I really like how crumpled it is on there, so I thought I might use that. So those are some of the elements that I may or may not use on this page. At least it's going to give me a start. So the very first thing I'm going to do, and of course I could get inspired and put anything on these pages. The very first thing I'm going to do is get out a piece of wax paper here, and I'm going to, I like worn penny a lot, metallic paint. I am going to work on the background, and I'm going to do the background before I cut it to size. And I like worn penny metallics a lot. That seems to be where I'm going with my colors this year. Okay, I start out with the background of my page with Deco Arts worn penny and Venetian gold paints. You see I'm doing an entire journal page, and I left those little end sprockets. I tore it out of my journal, And I really like those little sprockety ends from my wire-bound journal. I leave those on the page. Now I'm using a chipboard lettering where I've punched out the letters, and I'm going to use some vinyl spackle that I have in my stash that really needs to be used up. I think it's a little bit more flexible than actual modeling paste, and it just adds some textural alphabets to the page. They have no real meaning, they're just on the page because I think it adds some form of communication on the page. I use some Dylusions teal blue, teal green on the page, and as that mixes with the gold, I find that it gives a real patina to the page, as if the page were aging. And then I use some more of that worn penny on my letters. I work with those letters across different segments of this video. Now I'm deciding how I want to cut my page in half. The size of the page for the swap is 5.5 by 8.5, and I have enough to do one to submit in the lottery and one to keep for myself. I have a Daisy D rub-ons that I've been having in my stash for a long time. The one that I'm going to submit to the lottery says work in progress. It's a Daisy D rub-on. Here I'm putting it on the front. I figure that really fits my story because I'm a work in progress. I have some tears from some Tim Holtz tissue and an old brochure. One of the tissues says curiosity, and that fits my story. And you see I have a little journaling spot that I tore there that says my story and enjoy the journal. I have a little package of a puzzle piece that was a keepsake from a group meeting that actually has a label on it saying you are an important piece of our puzzle. Here I'm working with those vinyl letters again, grunging them up. They were a little bit too bright for me, so I'm using a mixture of my metallic paints. Of course, I have a lot of metallic left over, and I do a lot of tags during my projects. Now I'm collaging down that Tim Holtz tissue paper, or getting ready to. There we go. You see my paint is not permanent at all, but it works into the background of the tissue very well. I like the effect on it. Now I'm just working my tissue around those dimensional letters. Now I'm glazing the entire front of the page that I'm going to do for swap. I like to use glaze on my pages. I go over and work on my keeper page. I'm using up my rest of my Daisy D rub-ons and Tim Holtz papers. I've used these in other projects. That's a quote by Ruth Graham Bell. It says something to the effect that I do the possible and leave the impossible to God. Sometimes I leave the possible to God too. Now I'm just using up the rest of those rub-ons, just building my story on the page. Now I'm back over on the page that I'm doing for swap, and I'm working on the back. I have this piece, cross-stitch piece that I got at the thrift store, and I'm just collaged the entire piece onto the back. It really adds a nice element to the back of this page. Trimming off of the edges, trying to keep those sprockets down at the bottom of the page. I really like the effect of those. I stapled that little puzzle piece to the front, and now I'm doing a journaling spot to cover up my staples on the back. I'm roughing up the edges of my journaling spot, and then I'm edging it with some black metallic. Get out a Faber-Castell black gelato. I've never really worked with gelatos on projects before, so this is the first time for me. I actually do that on the cross-stitch piece too. And here I'm working with those letters again with my black metallic, just adding some contrast, or I think I am. Now I'm glazing the back of that piece, and I'm very careful to keep my glaze from the center out. I smudge out the black gelato, but I'm trying to keep it from smudging into the flowers. Now I'm working on the back of my keeper page. I'm using an old notebook paper that I had scrap paint on. Of course, you can see there's metallic and green and everything just kind of goes, so I tear it off. What I like about this is on the side there where those punch holes are and more of the sprockets. I think that just adds an element to telling a story in a notebook. I got some handwriting text on there. Now I'm just building some journaling tags. I think I eventually use this one for a spot that I'm going to do on the front of my page. I think I write a quote on there. I use black gesso so that I have something to write on. I have some paper clips I actually got from Goodwill. It only cost me 49 cents. Now I write my own quote on there. My quote from me says, ideas come easy to an open mind. So keep an open mind. Now I'm building another tag for the back of the page where I'm actually going to document the swap, which is really just the lottery and the date and the name of the group, and it's my story. It's a journal page. Lottery. Now I'm attaching it to the back. I use weld bond glue to attach everything, including the paper clips, to the back, and I'm clipping everything on with some clips, and I set that entire page aside to dry and go back to working on my keeper page. I have a little picture photograph, and also I have this poem from E.E. Cummings that I really have liked since high school. I really like the end, if day has to become night, this is a beautiful way. I think that speaks to life in itself. I find a brochure that has a sunset scene. This is some tissue paper that I stamped off in one of my scrap meetings that I went to. That ink is not permanent. You see I did my tissue tear technique on there. I put one of those dress forms on the front, and I put my butterflies in the other dress form on the back. I collage it on. You see my ink is not permanent, but I like how it blends in. I'm being very careful not to rub it out too much. Here I'm collaging a dress form in the front, and I don't like it at all, so I rub it off completely, and I end up drawing my own dress form on there. You'll see more of that when I do the show and tell. I do some of this work offline. I'm just putting that same black gelato around the edges of my keeper piece on both the front and the back. Now I'm just touching up everything and muting it off. I'm working with those letters again. Those letters really have no meaning, but like I said, I think they add some communication to the page. Touching everything up, kind of toning everything down on both the front and the back of the page. Okay, here are the completed journal pages. The one on the left is for swap. This one is one I'm going to submit to the Art Journal Lottery on AFTCM. The front has a quote on it that says, a work in progress. The theme of the swap is my story. I have a little puzzle piece there that has a little quote on that bag that says you're an important piece of our puzzle. I did a little journaling spot, a little quote from me that says ideas come easy to an open mind. Paper clip, and the letters that I used vinyl spackling on, and I grunged them up. I have some Tim Holtz tissue paper that says curiosity on there. A little journaling spot that says my story. This is the back. I put a cross-stitch needlework on the back. I collaged it on there. I'm showing you the journaling spots and the Martha Stewart edge punching, and I edged everything with Faber-Castell black gelatos. Little sprockets there on the bottom. I kept those off of my journal page. This is the one that I'm going to keep for myself. You can see I drew my own little dress form there. She symbolizes my mascot, studio mascot, which is, I've named Mrs. Wilkins after my high school art teacher. Little piece of lace and then some coral color to add some contrast. This is the back. I have a poem from E. E. Cummings there that I always like. And some Seven Gypsies gaffer tape measure tape. So there are the 2 pages all finished. I hope that you've enjoyed watching me create these journal pages and viewing the show and tell. If you have, please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you on the next page.